day 2 of the final block of this prep. This is a Toproll day, an outside arm wrestling day, and we're starting off with a pronation lift. I've done many different types of pronation lifts in my day. Of course, I've done the Devon Larratt lift, I've done pronated back pressure, all these different things, and I've found that they all sort of don't work for me. I have found that pronation is definitely one of my weak points in my arm wrestling game, and you need a lot of pronation to be good outside. I have discovered this type of pronation lift. It's a combination of some sort of pronation curl as well as a more dynamic pronation, where I'm essentially locking the elbow at almost 90, keeping the thumb neutral, and then pronating to a more pronated position. This is only the 3rd or 4th time that I've actually performed this lift in this program. It's definitely a newer lift. I had to do some reshuffling after a very revealing table time. I think that this pronation lift is going to be very good. The idea of locking your pronation like something like a Devon Larratt style pronation, I just don't think that works for most people, especially if you lack center table strength. I think that having a dynamic pronation, not necessarily a fully dynamic pronation, but at least a pronation lift where you are moving or pronating the hand somewhat, I think that's what's going to be necessary for a very, very strong pronation. Next, we are doing a back pressure. This is a dragging back pressure with the cable at just about 90 degrees, a little bit less. This lift did not go quite the way that I wanted it to. It's a great lift. It's what I have been doing since the start, but tons and tons and tons of tendon pain and inflammation really crept in during this session, and the locked bicep back pressure definitely was hit probably the worst by this, which is okay. Of course, you have good days and bad days when it comes to how inflamed or sore you are. This one just so happened to be a bit of a bad day, so I did not progress this week on this movement. Doing this movement with a 4x4 just like the last movement. I failed to mention that was also a 4x4 at 60 pounds. This one is a 4x4 at 77.5 pounds. This lift is a basic back pressure lift. Everyone needs to have a basic back pressure lift. It's one of the 3 or 4 directional necessaries in arm wrestling, is the ability to move back. I like to do this lift mostly with drag and a little bit of elbow flexion at the end. Couldn't quite hit that with all of the reps due to previously stated soreness. This next lift is quickly becoming one of my favorite lifts to perform, and it feels a lot like arm wrestling. This is a pronated side pressure. The point is to pronate through the elbow or through side pressure to pronate against a sideways resistance. I took this idea from the genius Todd Hutchings. He is essentially known for his pronated side pressure in his Toproll, so he knows a thing or two about developing that. This movement is from a bit of a higher angle, about the same height as my head when my elbow was on the pad. The point of this movement, of course, is to maintain the center side position and rolling through. That's why I don't go for a pin fully, because I feel like it doesn't maintain enough side, and I don't really drag sideways or anything, because it's mostly about rolling through. This is going to be integral for finishing power, for gaining position, for taking the hand and wrist, anything pronation and sideways put together, very necessary. This is another lift that suffered pretty heavily during this day of unreasonable soreness. I hit this for 40 pounds for a 4x6, a little bit higher volume than the other two, just because I feel like it's a little bit more of an accessory movement. So the rep schemes are just a tad bit different. The last lift in this session is probably the number one movement that I am using in this prep to develop my post. It is a rising post movement through the thumb knuckle. I took a little bit of advice from Bogdan Stoika, rising through the thumb, and I took a little bit of advice from Devin Larrett with his thumb-based posting movement. And I think that it's very, very, very good for developing that strong ability to move the hand backwards and upwards, maintaining that tight bicep angle. This is another one of the three, and this is the maybe fourth directional pressures that are very important. Up pressure, the ability to hammer curl essentially. I don't know if it's really a thing or if it's just a post. You know, how important is up pressure compared to back pressure, or how unique is it from back pressure? Regardless, this is the movement that suffered the most from the overwhelming soreness. Naturally, I mean, it is the last movement in the session after having three other very stressful movements on the elbow flexor. I was programmed to do this for a 4x10 with 50 pounds. I'm just coming off of a week of doing this for a 4x8 with 60 pounds. 4x10 with 50 should not be too difficult. There was so much inflammation in the elbow joint, I was only able to do 25 pounds for a 4x10. But what is important is that I still did it. I did the work. I knocked out, finished the session. This is me marking my calendar. This is my weight from this morning, 209.8. That's about 3 or 4 pounds down. And this is the album that I listened to. That album is okay, I guess. So that was the second session of the last block of my taper. I'm really enjoying making these videos, these voiceovers. Hope to, maybe give some rookies some training ideas. Give me training ideas if you want. If you see and you have any critiques or criticisms or anything, or you have any questions, just put them in the comments. Give me some engagement. Anyways, thank you for watching. That is all.